Well, my name is Rachel Noll. I don't even know how, I'm a filmmaker, I'm an actress, my background was acting, I'm a screenwriter. So I grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I had a family of artists and musicians, and I was always creating things and acting, and I guess around the time of like elementary school, middle school, it started specializing into this fixation on becoming an actor, and that became my absolute what I wanted to do. And throughout this, you know, I was bossing my friends around and directing plays and writing things, and but it was like acting was the thing. So I went to Occidental College out in LA, and I was a theater major specializing in acting. And throughout that time, you know, because it was a liberal arts school, they kind of force you to do things other than just your specialty. So I was, you know, I was acting and performing a lot and doing technique classes, and I was also, you know, doing playwriting, and I was building sets, and I was directing, and I was doing all kinds of things, costumes. So they give you a very well-rounded sort of education, and I think that may have been partly the seed of what kind of brought me to where I am, because I graduated, and for the first few years out in LA, I was just doing the acting thing, you know, agents and auditions and casting workshops, and I started booking some, you know, commercial here and there and some independent films and, you know, some ad print things, but it was very intermittent, and I started noticing that I was getting so frustrated waiting for other people to give me opportunities, and I was feeling so like stuck and concerned that I wasn't going to be able to do what I wanted to do. And kind of in the midst of like an especially dry summer, I had this book that I'd read when I was in probably middle school, as this, you know, young adult fantasy thing, but I'd always thought it would make a great movie. And so just, I don't know where I even got the idea, but just as an exercise, I decided I wanted to try to adapt the book into a script. So that was the first time I'd ever thought about screenwriting, attempted screenwriting. So I just kind of broke this thing down into an outline, and then I just started turning it into a script. And my uncle actually he's a writer-director. He primarily does documentary films, but he's written a lot of features, and so he actually kind of mentored me through that first script, where I would give him drafts and he would kind of give me notes. And so I learned a ton, and I realized it was something that I really enjoyed. And what that kind of sparked in me was this like awareness that I now had this new tool that would allow me to potentially create work for myself. So kind of then through a series of synchronicities, I ended up partnering up with a group of people. This is probably just like maybe a few months later. And I ended up sitting down in a room full of 8 people, and we just like, let's make a feature film. Somehow by the end of the meeting, there were 2 of us left, and we were the writers. And so we ended up pairing up and working with this group of actors and writing this script, and it turned into a feature film that I produced and that I wrote and that I starred in. And that film was so many things, which I'm sure I'll talk more about, but just going from the beginning of that process through the end of that process, it was like through that whole journey, I came out of it and was kind of like, oh, like I don't think it's just acting for me. Like I don't want to say it's not enough for me, because I think acting is an amazing art, and I don't want to in any way imply that it's not enough. But for me, I think I realized that being a part of telling the story, being a part of creating the world, being a part of deciding how it's going to be lit and where we're going to shoot it and who we're going to cast, and sitting with the editor and picking music and all of those things like were so invigorating. And I realized that like I love being in front of the camera, but I also love being behind it, and I love helping craft a story. And so that kind of set me on this new path where I kind of had to look back over who I thought I was and all these dreams that, you know, almost feeling like I was killing a dream by even being willing to admit that I liked other things. Because, you know, you get that drive, and it's like, it's only acting. That's all I am willing to look at. But it's kind of in the last few years become just, it feels like this bigger beast, and I'm getting to play in all these different areas, you know, and tell stories in all these different ways, and be involved with productions in all these different capacities. And it's starting to feel like this is like exactly where I want to be, and I feel so much more fulfilled and excited, and yeah,